This is a beautiful history. The feast of dedication. I'm gonna go briefly over it. Give me First Maccabees 1, verse 1.
The book of First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of Persia and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
So now we know the Greeks defeated Persian Medes, right? And now read verse. Keep reading.
Verse 2. And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth.
So that tells you he defeated many kings. That goes into all those black rulers around that time. He defeated them. Read.
Verse 3. And went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him.
So everybody was afraid of Alexander the Great. That's the story you're reading right now. The story of Alexander the Great in the Bible. All right? It's telling you so much that other nations were feared of him, that the earth was quiet before him. Read on.
Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
And he became very prideful. That's what that goes into. Go ahead.
And he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries, and nations, and kings, who became tributaries unto him.
So that means other nations were paying taxes. They were paying tributes unto Alexander the Great. Verse 6.
Verse 6.
Oh, no, finish verse 5.
Verse 5. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die.
So we all know what happened to Alexander the Great. He was dealing with man and man. Read on.
Verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them.
So that goes into the four generals that he had. You have Cassander, Seleucus, Ptolemy, and what was the fourth one? Cassander. No, I already said Cassander. No, I think Lysimachus. Yes, there you go. That's the last one. Those were the generals that he divided his kingdom onto. Jump down to verse 9.
Verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
It's telling you that evil were multiplied in the earth. So they were doing wicked stuff. So that's showing you exactly what the scriptures say in Job 9 and 24. That how did it go? Job 9 and 24. The earth is given to the hand of the wicked. Yes. Okay. Now jump down to Interests. I think that's 10.
Verse 10.
Yeah.
Verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome.
He was more wicked than all the other ones that they say evil were multiplying the earth. He was far worse than they were. Now, you jump into injustice. That's around the time what we are about to read about, the Feast of Dedication. Okay? Now, I want you to jump down to verse 41.
Verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
Now, his policy was, he's doing the same thing the so-called white man is doing today. All should be one people. He was pushing his doctrine that everybody come together and follow him. Read.
And everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and profaned the Sabbath.
So they all agreed to come and follow what the king had said. Even a lot of the Israelites follow that same custom. Keep reading.
Verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem, and had the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offering, and sacrifice, and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
So they were pushing for us not to keep the high holy days anymore, to do the abominable things on the Sabbath day, the altar to sacrifice swine flesh. All these things are the wrong things to be doing, but it was it. Keep reading.
Verse 46, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars, groves, and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
Keep reading.
That they should also lead their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable, with all manner of uncleanness and provocations.
So realistically, we all know he was targeting one group of people. That was not really all people to come in one. Actually, what they wanted was all Israel to join them, because they were already doing that nonsense. All these laws that they're pushing here was laws to push us away from following God's commandment. Read on, verse 49.
Verse 49, to the end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances.
See, to the end that we may forget who we are and stop keeping the commandments. Isn't that the same thing the so-called white men did of today? Yeah. Now, let's jump to more of the story. Jump down to chapter 2, verse 1.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 2, and verse 1. In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the son of Jereb, from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Madi.
Go ahead.
Verse 2. And he had 5 sons, Johanan called Cadus, Simon called Thais, and Judas, who was called Maccabees, and Eleazar called Abiram, and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphias.
Okay, now those 5 sons, each one of them have their own characteristic, their own style. Simon was considered the wise one, the one that was very strategic. He very smart, knowing how to plan things, as opposed to Judas Maccabees was a man of war, man of fight. He knew how to fight. He was very skilled with his hand. You know, so that was Judas Maccabees. With all saying, shout out to the tribe of Levi. But yeah, on the real. Those were the 5 sons of Mattathias. And now let's see what happened. Jump to verse 6.
Verse 6. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of the strangers.
So what he sees was how they were leaving the children uncircumcised, how they were doing things in the temple that was not lawful. So he was very sad in the whole situation. And they'll tell you, jump down to verse 10.
Verse 10, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils?
That's the same thing Daniel says when you read in Daniel 9 and 12, telling you all nation, I'm not quoting it right. It goes into saying that we suffer more than everybody else, and all nation partake in our fallout. And read it again.
Verse 10, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils?
Read.
All her ornaments are taken away of a free woman. She has become a bondslave.
That's Israel. Now I want you to jump to Mattathias. They tried to bribe him. Verse 15.
Verse 15. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice.
Modin is the city where Mattathias and his sons were living. Go ahead, verse 16.
Verse 16. And when many of Israel came into them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on his wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthen his sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first, and fulfill the king's commandments.
See, now they try to bribe. They know Mattathias had a reputation. He was well known in the city, the town that he was in. They're like, if we can get the leader of that city, we got the whole city. Let's go ahead and bribe him. Tell him, hey, you can't be the king friends if you go ahead and complete what the king had required from everybody. Read.
Now therefore come thou first, and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done. Yea, the men of Judah also, such as remain at Jerusalem. So
now he also telling you to make him feel like, okay, don't feel bad, because you also have your brothers that's already partake of this, already consent to the commandment of the king. So just go ahead and be like your brother, fulfill what they have done. Read.
So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
Read on.
Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, Thou all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from his religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandment. Yet I and my sons and my brethren,
read it again.
Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
Now this is the response of Mattathias. It says, yes, I know you already got some of our people to consent and all this and this and that. But as for me and my sons, we not gonna consent. And you see, that's showing you the characteristic of Mattathias. When he saw that, he couldn't hold himself. Read it again for me. Man, I'm telling you, that story is beautiful. Read it again.
Verse 24, which thing when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Also the king's commanders, their commissioners, compelled men to sacrifice. He killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down.
You see what he did? Not only he killed that demon that wanted to show the opposite of what he was trying to stand for, standing for God's commandment, but this Negro wanted to do what he wanted to do. Wanted to be self-will, say, hell with you. Me, I'm going to follow the king. I'm going to do what the king do so I can feed my pocket. You ain't feeding me. I'm just saying. That's how people think of today. And when he saw that, you saw what he did. Not only he killed him, and he killed those messengers that the king sent. And you know, back in the day, you do something like that, you ask for war. And he was ready. He was ready to do what? Jump to verse 27.
Verse 27. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me. You
notice something? He did not call on everybody. He did not call on everybody. It says those that are zealous, that means ready to die for the Most High God laws, come and follow me. If you're weak, if you don't want to follow God's commandment, stay home. That's exactly what he says. Plain and simple. Now, let's jump down to, finish read that part so you guys can see what he started doing. Read on.
Verse 28. So he and his sons fled into the mountains, and left all that ever they had in the city. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there.
Hold on. Think about that. You think a lot of brothers would have done what they did here today? Leaving everything they have behind, leaving their wives and children, leaving there's 9 job, luxury things that they go, hell with that. You go. I'm out. I'll go back to what I used to do. Hell with that. Showing you the zeal of our forefathers. Where are these brothers today, man? These are the questions that we must ask ourselves. Those are the reasons these stories, when we going over it with our children, you building them up, create self-esteem. Christmas have nothing to do with us. But that story here, telling you the exact characteristic of our people, of our forefathers. Read on.
Verse 30. Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because affliction increased sore upon them. Now when it was told the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were going down into the secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And
so what that goes into, there are all the brothers and sisters that heard of what Mattathias did and his sons. They're telling you those people stand up too to fight. Read.
Verse 33. And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed.
You see, our brothers and sisters got slaughtered that day because they didn't want to fight on the Sabbath day. They're saying, come and do as you please. We will not fight you. But guess what? Read on. Jump to verse when Mattathias heard the news. 39.
Verse 39. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said unto another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places.
So they stand up. They saying, we're not going to do the same thing our brothers did. If they come to fight us, we're going to stand our ground. We're going to fight them. Read it.
Verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of Assassins, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were to a stay unto them. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor.
They run looking for help because they got defeated. Read. 45.
Verse 45. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. And the children, soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those that were circumcised valiantly.
That's showing you the first victory of Mattathias. Okay? Jump down to, start with 50. That's good.
Verse 50. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time. So shall ye receive great honor and an everlasting name.
You see, what he's doing right now, he's coaching them. He's teaching them the things that our forefather done. He's saying for you to look back of what your forefathers have done in the past. That's what we don't do. When we going through a hard time, we don't look back to our forefathers, what they have done in the past. He's saying, call to remembrance what act our fathers did in their time. All right, jump to verse 52 when you talk about Abraham.
Verse 52. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness? Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt.
Who knows that what that goes into for Joseph? Joseph in his distress. Who got the thoughts? Let me hear the new brother. Emmanuel.
Mike. Shalom, brother. That was when he was falsely accused by the Pharaoh's wife, and he was put into jail.
Good. All praise. All right, read on.
Verse 54. Phineas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Jesus, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel.
Who knows what that goes into? Verse 55. That goes into Joshua. Joshua was made judge over Israel after Moses. That's who he's referring to. In Greeks, they say Jesus. Verse 56.
Verse 56. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land.
We all know Joshua and Caleb was the one that inherited the kingdom, the land. Read on.
David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven.
Read on.
Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, by believing, were saved out of the flame.
That goes into the three holy children. Read on.
Daniel, for his innocencies, was delivered from the mouth of lions.
Daniel in the den. Read.
And thus consider ye there throughout all ages, that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome.
You see, that's showing you, any one of us today, if you keep your faith in God's commandment, you will not be confounded. He will have your back. But you can't be washy-washy. You can't be on and off. You can't be unsure of yourself. You have to put all your faith in God's commandment. Read on.
Verse 62. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms.
Damn. It says, fear not then the words of a sinful man. A sinful man is someone who does not know God's commandment. These other nations are sinful men. It says, don't fear them. You are sons of God. Read.
Today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned unto his dust, and his thought is come to nothing.
Read.
Wherefore ye, my sons, be valiant, and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law.
You see, the same thing King David has said to Solomon. He says the same thing to his sons. Show yourself a man by keeping the commandments. That's how you show yourself a man. Read on.
For by it shall ye obtain glory. And behold, I know that your brethren Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always, and he shall be a father unto you.
You see, now he's giving counsel of who you should follow. He says, Simon will be your counselor. Use him as a father, because see, that a simple brother won't understand that scripture. Let him be as a father. Doesn't mean he's your father. Be as a father to you, meaning he will give you counsel, telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Read on.
As for Judas Maccabees, he hath been mighty and strong, even from his youth up. Let him be your captain, and fight the battle of the people.
Fight the battle of the people. Now, we're going to jump down from there to straight to the scripture that Brother Aaron had pulled out. Go to 54. Now, we all know what went down. Judas Maccabees was fighting the Greeks left and right after his father passed. And they were conquering each city that they go into. And they sealed those areas, cleaned the temple, and so forth and so on. Let's jump to verse 54.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4 and verse 54. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with song and censers and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising God of heaven, who had given them good success.
They had good success defeating those other nations, the Greeks that they were fighting against. Remember, the Greeks was powerful, but yet the Most High God was with them. And when you start reading the story, you'll find out how when the army of Israel was coming against the large army of the Greeks, when they hear the sound of the people coming, they were afraid like, man, because they were not afraid of being put to death. They understand regeneration. Man, I'm telling you, we fall pretty far down, man. We don't.
Verse 56. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness amongst the people.
So that's showing you they decorate the temple. They decorate the temple and they keep the feast for 8 days. And that's the same thing we are doing today, following that same tradition. Read on.
For that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season, from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month of Caslu, with mirth and gladness.
So that's showing you Judas Maccabees made it a law. And guess what? Let me ask you guys this. All those high holy days that we have, what do they have in common with Feast of Dedication? Put your hand up. Let me hear you. Simon?
It was all to celebrate us being delivered.
There you go. Us being delivered from our enemies. Every single high holy days that we have something to do with that. And that's the same thing here. And guess what? For people that usually say the Apocrypha is not a book that is of God, that's one way you can shut them down. That history we just read about, you can only find it 2 places. You find it in the Apocrypha and the book of Daniel. But in the book of Daniel, you won't understand it if you don't understand this. Because this gives you the plain story, exactly when it happened.
Now they will see the true men of God. We are not black men, we are the Israelites. Take care of us. Take care of us. And our children too. And our children too. We have repented. We have repented. How about you? How about you? People want to know who's the king.
O nation of Israel, it's time to return to the Father. O nation of Israel, it's time to return to the Father.
Now why they trying to make it so hard to serve God? And why when I say that I'm a Jew it sound odd? For years I've been walking around saying that I'm a black man. I ain't saying that no more, it sounds wrong, man.
This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. Stay up to date with our latest events, music, and classroom lessons. IUIC plans to continue visiting different countries where this gospel has not been preached before. IUIC needs your help in pushing this truth. So join us. Subscribe to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and podcast, and stay up to date with us. For more information, please visit www.israelunite.org.